Okay, Ms. Andrews, you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Logan, why don't you go ahead and make sure that microphone is pulled up close to you? Yeah. Good morning.
Morning.
Would you tell us all your name?
Logan Scott McQueary,
And how old are you, Logan?
27.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your family? Who's in your family?
I got a little brother and little sister and an older sister, and then my father, and then also have nieces and nephews.
And in December of 2009, what family members did you have living here in Arizona?
Pretty much my whole family, aunts and uncles, my grandmother. I have multiple aunts and uncles, and the only two I believe that were, I have a few that live out of state, but most of my whole family lives here.
Tell us your dad's name.
Frank McQueary?
And does your dad have a girlfriend?
Yes.
What's your dad's girlfriend's name?
Jamie?
Does Jamie have any kids?
Yes.
And who are her kids?
Jordan and Matt?
And how old are they? Are they adults?
Yes, they're my age.
And tell us about your mom.
My mother passed away 4 years ago.
And tell us about your grandmother.
My grandmother lives here in the valley. She lives up in North Scottsdale. We're real close.
Logan, I'm going to ask you to try and speak up a little bit more, okay? I want to talk to you a little bit about your criminal history. You have a criminal history, is that correct?
Yes.
And in fact, on July 14th, 2007, did you commit a crime that they determined to be solicitation to commit burglary?
Yes.
And were you sentenced for that crime on March 23rd, 2005?
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that was about?
Till what happened, or
Yes, what happened?
a friend and I, pretty much, we were drinking alcohol, and we went to go get more alcohol, and then he went and he wanted to look in vehicles, and I was driving the car, and he got out, and I didn't know exactly what he was doing, but he went and checked in the vehicle and stole some property from it and ran back to the car.
And when the police investigated that, did you assist the police at all?
Yes.
And how did you assist them?
Returned the property to which car it belonged to, what house.
And did you eventually take a plea agreement to that?
Yes.
And was that for a Class 6 felony that if you did well on probation, you could earn a misdemeanor?
Yes.
And in February of 2009, did you violate that probation?
Yes.
And what did you do to violate that probation?
I absconded,
And how did you abscond?
left the state.
Did you move to another state?
Yes.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But what was the punishment you got for leaving the state?
I believe it was 4 months in jail.
And then when you got out of jail, were you on probation anymore?
I got released from probation if I did the 4 months.
And do you also have a misdemeanor theft conviction that occurred around October 31st, 2011?
Yes.
And what was that about?
A friend had taken something of mine, so I went and right in front of him, I picked up something of his, and I said, "You'll get this back when I get my property back," and he went to the police.
And what was the property of his that you took?
I took a Wii console.
Is that a game console?
Yes.
And what did you do with it eventually?
I was moving, so I didn't need it, I just sold it.
Did you take it to a pawn shop?
Yeah.
And when you pawned it, did you use a fake name or your own name?
Here's my name.
And so you entered a plea to a misdemeanor theft for that?
Yes.
And did you enter that plea and get sentenced in April of 2012?
Yes.
And what was your punishment for that?
Year's probation.
Are you still on probation for that?
Yes.
I want to take you to around November and December of 2007. And I want to ask you about Elizabeth Johnson. You know somebody by the name of Elizabeth Johnson?
Yes.
And did you meet her approximately around that time?
What was the time?
November, December 2007?
That's not when we met, but yes. I knew her.
Tell me about how you met Elizabeth Johnson.
Met her back in middle school,
About how old were you?
maybe 13, 14, somewhere in there.
And how did you meet Elizabeth?
She's the twin sister of one of my friends.
And Logan, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and try and speak up just a little bit more again.
Okay.
I can hear the microphone picking up and it's kind of accenting, but it's not really carrying all the way back here.
Okay.
Okay? So
Let me hold on for a second. Can the jury hear them? Okay, that's good because they're right there, but people out there, including the lawyers most importantly,
Okay.
are probably having trouble hearing you, so just project as best you can. Don't be offended if I say please speak up if you're getting quiet again.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And that's why I'm standing here, Logan, to make sure I can hear you all the way back here, and also let me know if you can't hear me, okay?
Okay.
So you indicated you met Elizabeth through her brother, Robert,
Yes.
and I'm sorry, did you say that they're twins?
Yes.
How did you know Robert?
Through school, he was in the same grade as my little brother, 1 grade behind me.
And so you met Elizabeth through Robert when you were about 13, 14 years old?
Yes.
Do you see Elizabeth Johnson in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Would you please just point out to where she's sitting and just describe a little bit about what she's wearing?
She's sitting over here in defense, wearing a purple shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendants?
It shall so reflect.
Logan, eventually, did your relationship with Elizabeth become romantic?
Yes.
When did that happen?
I believe it was sometime after she'd moved back from Boston. Her brother had moved in with me. He needed a place to stay, and she had periodically come over whenever we had get-togethers.
Now, when you said her brother moved in, is that Robert?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about Elizabeth's family. Did you meet some of Elizabeth's family members?
The only people, I met her grandmother once, but I knew her brother and her grandfather for a while.
And what name does her grandfather go by?
Bob?
Is his name Robert as well?
Yes.
But he goes by Bob?
Yes.
And what name does her brother go by?
Robert?
So you said that Robert moved in with you. About how old were you when this happened?
I would say maybe 23, 24, and then probably 22, 23, something like that.
So were you and Robert living out on your own at that point in time?
Yes, I had a house in Scottsdale.
Okay, so tell us about how your relationship began with Elizabeth Johnson to be romantic.
She came over a few times when we would have get-togethers, and Robert just talked to me about maybe going on a date with her and stuff and hooking up with her, and we eventually just went on a date and started hanging out, and things kind of went from there.
And would it be fair to say that you had a relationship with Elizabeth from then until about December of 2009?
Yes.
During your relationship, did you guys ever break up?
Yes.
Did you ever break up more than once?
Yes.
Did you have arguments?
Yes.
During your relationship, did you and Elizabeth ever live together?
Yes.
Did you live together constantly the whole time, or did you live together on and off?
At the beginning it was on and off, but then after Gabriel was born and everything, it was permanently. Pretty much we just lived together the entire time.
Okay, and we're going to talk about Gabriel in a minute, but let me ask you this. Do you have any other children other than Gabriel?
No.
Have you ever had any experience raising a child or helping raise any other children other than Gabriel?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
My girlfriend, prior to dating Elizabeth, I went out with her for 4 years, a little over 4 years, and her daughter was almost 5. I started dating her when her daughter was 6 months old.
And did you ever participate in taking care of that child?
Yes.
What types of things did you do?
Pretty much everything, to taking her to daycare, changing her diaper, feeding her, playing with her, ran her around. If I went places, she'd go with me places too. Just both my ex-girlfriend and I took care of her.
And when you and your ex-girlfriend broke up, did the relationship stay amicable?
Yeah, we still talk now, and I still talk to her daughter.
Let's talk about Gabriel now. When did you first find out you and Elizabeth were having a baby?
I don't remember exact date.
It was sometime, obviously, before Gabriel was born.
Obviously, yes.
And we had already talked about you going to another state and absconding from probation.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about what caused you to go to another state and abscond from probation?
Elizabeth and I were living together, and we just decided to up and move. One of our friends lived in a different state, and well, my job wasn't that good here, so I got a good job in Arkansas, and we just decided to move out there. We just picked up and left next morning, pretty much.
And did you tell your probation officer you were leaving the state?
No.
At the time that you left and went to Arkansas, were you aware that Elizabeth was pregnant?
Yes.
And what was happening on the way to Arkansas? What do you remember happening on the way to Arkansas in regard to Elizabeth's pregnancy?
That was when she first started her morning sickness, when we just left the house to go and start driving.
And during that time then, did you have to make any stops on the way to Arkansas
We made several stops, yeah.
because of the morning sickness?
Yes.
At some point in time, did you return back to Arizona from Arkansas?
Yes.
And was this before Gabriel was born?
Yes, it was right before that. I believe it was the day before Thanksgiving that we had returned.
Now, you indicated before, we already talked about you getting in trouble, having a probation violation for absconding. Did you eventually get caught when you returned to Arizona for absconding from probation?
Yes.
And you indicated that you had gone to jail.
Yes.
Tell us about what were the circumstances of your jail? Were you in jail for 24 hours at a time?
I was on work furlough.
Okay, what does that mean?
I was allowed out a certain amount of time a day to work, and then I would have to go back to the jail at nighttime to sleep.
And where were you working at the time?
I believe I was working for a boat air, an air conditioning company.
And what days of the week did you work while you were on work furlough?
Monday through Saturday.
And you didn't work on Sunday?
No, I was held in 1 day a week.
Tell me about when Elizabeth was in labor during that time period.
Elizabeth got induced in labor on Friday, and I was there Friday when they did that, and then I had to go back to the jail Friday night. Saturday morning, I came back over to the hospital and spent all day Saturday there, and then Saturday night I had to go back, and then Gabriel was born, I believe it was around 6 or 7 o'clock on Sunday morning.
And were you able to be there on Sunday?
No, I was held in that day.
You were held in the jail that day? When you were there on Friday and Saturday, were you supposed to be at the hospital?
No,
Where were you supposed to be?
nowhere.
And then on Sunday, you said Gabriel was born?
Yes,
Was that May 3rd, 2009?
yes.
And then what happened Monday?
Right when I got out of jail on Monday morning, I went straight to the hospital, and that's when I got to see Gabriel for the first time.
And about how long did you stay in jail after Gabriel was born?
I believe it was about a month or a little less, somewhere around there.
And when you were still in jail and Gabriel was born, I'm assuming he at some point went home with Elizabeth.
Yes, I was with them when they went home to the house.
So that day, you went with Elizabeth and Gabriel home?
No, it was, I believe it was maybe Wednesday. She stayed in the hospital for a few days before she actually went home.
And you were there for that?
Yes.
While you were still in jail and Gabriel was at home with Elizabeth, how often did you see him?
Every day. Before I go to work, I would stop by the house.
And what types of things did you do with Gabriel at that time?
Helped her out any way I could while I was there at the house. I couldn't stay there very long because I had to get to work.
During the time that Gabriel first came home and he was a newborn, were there other people who helped you and Elizabeth take care of him? Anybody who babysat him or watched him at any point in time?
I believe it was the first maybe a week or two that when Gabriel was there at the house and Elizabeth went home, one of her friends came over and was there with them, helping them out. Also, my aunt babysat for us periodically, family.
And the aunt who babysat for you, what's her name?
My Aunt Kathy.
And so eventually you were released from jail
Yes,
and you were allowed to go home the whole time.
yes.
About how old was Gabriel at that time?
When I got released from jail,
Yes.
about a month old, maybe a little older, month and a half.
And when you first went home and were released from jail, what types of hours did you work?
When I first started for them, I worked till probably 6 or 7 o'clock in the afternoon. If we got a call late, then we had to stay at work and, work late. But then eventually I changed my hours so that I could be home like around 4 or 5 every day.
So eventually you changed your hours so you were home earlier in the evening?
Yes.
Eventually, did Gabriel go to daycare?
Yes.
How old was Gabriel when he went to daycare?
I don't know when he first started. I would say maybe 3 or 4 months.
And how often, or what days did he go to daycare?
Monday through Friday, and then sometimes Saturdays.
And did you ever take Gabriel to daycare or pick him up from daycare?
Yes.
And how often did you do that?
Quite often. Elizabeth and I would switch off, but if I was pretty much getting up in the working and going to work every morning, I got up with him, changed his diaper, and brought him to daycare.
During the time period between when Gabriel was born until about June of 2009, what was your relationship like with Elizabeth? Was it good, or did you have arguments during that time period?
It was on and off. We were good sometimes and bad other times, argued.
Was there an occasion in June of 2009 where you and Elizabeth had an argument and then she took Gabriel and went to Boston?
Yes.
What was in Boston for Elizabeth at that time?
Her grandmother.
Do you recall how long she had been gone?
Just a few days.
And while she was in Boston, when she first went to Boston, did you know where she went?
No.
Did she call and tell you she was going to Boston?
After the fact.
After she was there. How long after the fact?
I believe it was the day after she left.
And when you talked to her in Boston, did she eventually decide to come back?
Yes.
And what did she tell you was the reason she was coming back?
She wanted to come back because she couldn't stand living there. Her grandmother, I guess, was trying to sell the house, and her living quarters she didn't like, and she just couldn't really stand to be around her grandmother.
And then during that time period when Elizabeth came back, did she tell you anything about meeting anybody in the airport who might want to adopt Gabriel?
No.
Did you and Elizabeth talk about adoption of Gabriel at that point?
Not really. We didn't talk about any adoption that I can think of or remember.
Was there ever a time, let's say prior to December of 2009, where you ever considered having Gabriel adopted by somebody else?
No. We had talked about it and said if we can't really handle this, we will think about it further down the road, but that was the only thing that we had talked about.
When did you talk about it? How old was Gabriel?
When we had that conversation, I don't even know if Gabriel was born.
Before Gabriel was born?
Yes.
And what did you want to do in regard to having this baby?
I wanted to have Gabriel, take care of him. We wanted to have a family.
So after Elizabeth returned from Boston that time, was your relationship on and off again during that time period?
Yes.
Did you continue to have arguments?
Yeah.
Was there a situation where you had an argument and so you had your dad pick Gabriel up from daycare?
Yes.
And let me ask you this, what does your dad do for a living?
He's a retired Phoenix police officer.
And do you know how long he's been retired?
She's been tried for, I want to say 5 or 6 years, at least.
And does he still work for the Phoenix Police Department?
He works on the reserves.
At the time that you had your dad pick up Gabriel from daycare, what happened after your dad picked up Gabriel from daycare?
We got a call from the Scottsdale, it was either Scottsdale or Tempe Police Department, wanting to know where Gabriel was and if he was okay, because Elizabeth had made allegations of kidnapping him, or that my father had kidnapped him. She called the police and told them that.
And after the police became aware of where Gabriel was, did you and Gabriel stay with your dad for a period of time?
Yes.
And about how long was that?
About a week or two.
And did you take care of Gabriel during that time?
Yes.
Did you and Elizabeth reconcile after that?
Yeah, we try to work things out.
Now, Logan, I want to take you to December 8th, 2009. Did you and Elizabeth have an argument on that day?
Yes.
After you had the argument, or at the end of the argument, what did you decide to do?
She didn't want me there, so I got up and grabbed some of my clothes and left.
So you and Elizabeth were living together at that time?
Yes.
Where were you living?
In a trailer home in Tempe.
And whose trailer was it?
It was both of ours.
Was it rented?
No, we were making payments on it.
And so you were purchasing it?
Yes.
And so you said that you left.
Mhm.
What happened in regard to Gabriel that night?
On the 8th, that's when I believe I left with Gabriel.
And why did you take Gabriel with you?
She didn't want him there at the house. She told me to take him with me.
And so you took Gabriel with you.
Yes.
What time of day was this?
Around the morning time, before lunch, because I had just got done. I pulled an all-nighter. I was working at the 99-cent store, and we were stocking, getting ready for Christmas. So it was in the morning.
Let me ask you this. We talked about your work. You said before that you worked at an air conditioning company, and now you say you worked at a 99-cent store.
Yes.
Was that a change in jobs, or did you work at both places at the same time?
I worked at both places and then stopped working in a boat air and started working at the 99-cent store.
Do you recall when you started at the 99-cent store
November, I believe.
of 2009?
Yeah.
So on this particular day, December 8, 2009, Elizabeth told you to take Gabriel and you left. Where did you go?
To my grandmother's.
And where did your grandmother live at the time?
Mesa.
And at the time your grandmother lived in Mesa, what type of place was she living in?
A retirement home.
Is that a place where you and Gabriel could stay?
Yeah, it's like a retirement community. We could stay that night there probably. I never
Were you
asked,
intending to stay there that night?
No, I really didn't know where I was going to stay at that point.
While you were at your grandmother's house, what happened?
We got a call from Tempe police officer. I think it was about 3 or 4 hours after I had been there. And he'd asked me where I was at, if I had Gabriel with me, told me that I needed to return Gabriel. Otherwise, if they had to come and look for me, then I would get arrested for taking him. So,
And did you in fact return Gabriel?
yes, I asked the police officer to meet me at the house because I didn't want to go back there by myself.
And did he meet you at the house?
Yes.
And did you return Gabriel then?
Yes.
And did you have any conversation with Elizabeth at that point?
We didn't really we didn't really talk. I brought Gabriel in and put him in his bed, and that was it.
Now let's what happened the next day, December 9, 2009.
Went to work the next day and got a call from Elizabeth, and she wanted to talk to me. She kept calling the store where I worked at over and over again and wanted to talk to me, and I didn't want to talk to her. She told me on the phone, I picked up the phone one time and I asked her to stop calling, and she said that we need to talk about this adoption and paperwork, and I want you to sign paperwork for adopting Gabriel out. And that was, I think that was the first time I'd heard about it. And she just kept pushing it, and I told her no, and I hung up the phone. And then she kept calling back over and over again, and then she showed up at the 99-cent store.
Logan, I'm going to stop you real quick there. When you said she was calling at the 99-cent store, was she calling on your cell phone or a work phone, or what was she calling on?
Calling the store.
And are you the one who answers the phone at the store?
No, I was stalking at the time. Everybody else was answering the phone. Whoever was like cash register or the manager.
Now, you said you think this was the first time you heard anything about adoption. Had you and Elizabeth had any conversations about adoption paperwork or a couple or anything about adopting Gabriel out at this point?
No.
Had you ever heard the name Tammy or Jack Smith prior to this?
No.
What happened when Elizabeth showed up at your work?
She pretty much just walked through the door, saw me, walked straight towards me and started yelling at me, telling me I needed to sign the adoption paperwork, and just pretty much she was really pissed off, just kept screaming and yelling, and my manager told me to go back to the office. So I proceeded back to the office and went into the office, and they shut the door, and Elizabeth wanted in there, and she just kept kicking, screaming and hitting the door. They called the cops because she wouldn't stop kicking the door.
And at this point in time, when Elizabeth showed up and wanted you to sign adoption paperwork, did she have adoption paperwork with you? Did she ever show you any?
I didn't see anything in her hands when she walked through the door, no.
At some point in time, you said the police were called. What happened when the police arrived?
They took Elizabeth into the back and sat her down and was questioning her. And a police officer came in and questioned me, asking me where Gabriel was and the last time I saw him. And then they asked me about my family. They wanted all my family's phone numbers and who lived in the valley where they lived. And so we just pretty much sat there that was like the first hour or two that we were there. We just sat down. I made a list. They were asking me everybody, so they could go and check everybody else's houses because they thought that I had Gabriel. And I kept telling them I have no clue where he's at. I haven't seen him.
And at that point, did you know where Gabriel was?
No.
And when you say we were there for the first hour or two, who is we?
Me and the police officer and Elizabeth, and my dad finally came down maybe after the first 2 hours.
And so during this time period, the police were trying to find out where Gabriel is.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
At some point in time, did the police allow you to leave the 99-cent store?
Yes. After, I think, at least 6 or 7 hours we were there.
And what happened when you left?
I went home with my dad.
To his house?
Yes.
And did you ever learn the whereabouts of Gabriel during this time frame?
No. I got a call later that night. I think about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. The police officer called me and said, "We can't tell you where he's at. The only thing we can tell you that he's okay."
So they didn't give you a name of where Gabriel had been all that time?
No.
Between December 9th, 2009 and December 11th, 2009, did you have a conversation, don't tell me necessarily what the conversation was, but did you have a conversation with your dad about adoption versus custody of Gabriel?
Yes.
What did you decide you wanted to do?
I wanted custody of Gabriel. I wanted to have my son in my life and take care of him.
And on December 11th, 2009, what did you do in regard to custody?
Went and filed for custody.
Did anybody help you with that?
My dad showed me how to do it.
And where did you go?
Courthouse right here.
Right here, the courthouse?
Yes.
And did you also contact CPS at all?
Yes.
And is that because Elizabeth was talking about adopting Gabriel?
Yes. Elizabeth had just started talking about that, and I didn't know where he was, what was going on, so I called him and told him what was going on.
During, say, around the time period of December 11th, 2009 and December 14th, 2009, did you have any communications with Elizabeth on MySpace?
I may have. I don't remember exactly what they said.
Well, let's say prior to December 17th, 2009, did you ever tell Elizabeth your desires about having custody of Gabriel?
Prior to it?
Prior to December 17th, 2009, a custody hearing.
Yes, yeah, I believe I did.
Did you tell her you wanted to raise Gabriel?
Yes.
And before the custody hearing on December 17th, 2009, did you sit down and meet with Alicia Shumway from CPS?
Yes.
Now, prior to your filing for custody and prior to meeting with CPS, had you ever heard the name Tammy or Jack Smith?
No.
Were you ever specifically aware of a couple who was seeking to adopt your son?
No.
Tell us what happened on December 16th, 2009, the day before a custody hearing.
The day before the custody hearing, I came over to the trailer and Elizabeth and I sat down and talked. We talked about pretty much that she wanted to be able to get out and do things and go back to school and get a job, and we just pretty much sat there and talked about that. And
Did you and Elizabeth Elizabeth agree on any custody arrangements at this time?
Yes, we both agreed that we were gonna, instead, because I filed for full custody at first, and then we both agreed on shared custody so that we could have him back and forth, and she would have time to go and do things, go back to school and get a job.
Now, this meeting you had with Elizabeth on December 16, 2009, you said it was back at the trailer.
Yes.
Was Gabriel there?
No.
Did you know where Gabriel was at the time?
I just assumed that he was with those people, Tammy and Jack Smith.
Did you ask Elizabeth specifically about this couple or anything about where Gabriel was then?
I think we talked a little bit about him, so, but not much.
And at the time that you and Elizabeth agreed on joint custody, what was your relationship with Elizabeth like at that particular point? Were you getting along? Were you romantic? What was it like?
Well, at that conversation and at that point, we were both getting along, yes. Pretty much stayed the night and left early in the morning.
Did you agree at that point to get back together or just to have joint custody?
Just to have joint custody.
Then on December 17, 2009, was there a custody hearing?
Yes.
And what type of facility was that? Was that in the courthouse?
Yes.
And you indicated that you left early in the morning that day from Elizabeth's?
Probably around like 1 or 2 o'clock.
And then where did you go when you left Elizabeth's?
To my father's.
And then you went to the custody hearing?
Yes.
Who went with you to the custody hearing?
My dad.
And when you got there, did you go into a courtroom?
Yes.
Was it a courtroom somewhat similar to this?
Yes.
Was it smaller, maybe?
Smaller, a little bit older.
Did it have tables for both sides?
Yes.
And where did you sit as far as the tables for both sides?
I sat on this side and Elizabeth sat right here.
So you each sat on different sides of the table?
Yes.
And where was your dad in the courtroom?
He was sitting behind us in the chairs.
And other than the judge or any court staff, was there anybody else in the courtroom for the hearing?
Not that I saw.
And prior to this date, December 17, 2009, did you ever meet a Jack or Tammy Smith?
No.
And at some point, so you had this custody hearing. That morning, or that day when you arrived at the custody hearing, did you have any intention of making any allegations against Elizabeth to the judge?
Not other than what was already written on the paperwork what we had filled out.
Did you attempt to tell the judge about calling CPS and why you called CPS?
Attempted to, but I really couldn't say anything.
And did you attempt to tell the judge about the whole adoption situation?
Yes.
Essentially, did he let you do that? Tell him about the adoption situation?
I believe I kind of just blurted it out there.
At the end of the hearing, what happened?
They gave us both shared custody, and Elizabeth and I left.
And when you say he gave you shared custody, what specifically did he say? When would Elizabeth have Gabriel, and when would you have Gabriel?
I believe I picked him up every morning on Sundays at 8 o'clock, and then I had to have him, I believe it was Wednesday morning, I had to have him back.
And was there a discussion at all? I mean, this is December of 2009. Was there a discussion at all about what would happen over Christmas?
Yes, we did discuss Christmas, and she got him for Christmas.
And so from your understanding from the hearing, were you supposed to have Gabriel on December 20th, 2009?
Yes.
And that was a Sunday?
Yes.
And so at some point in time, I'm assuming you left the court.
Yes.
Were you ever given any paperwork?
I can't remember if we did or not. I believe so, yes.
On December 18th, 2009, did you have some conversation with Elizabeth about Gabriel?
What day was that?
December 18th, 2009, Friday?
Friday, yes. That's when I called her to make arrangements to pick him up.
And those were arrangements to pick him up on Sunday?
Yes.
What did Elizabeth tell you about Gabriel on that day?
She pretty much just said that I'm never going to see Gabriel again, and that she doesn't have to let me see him.
And what happened after you had that conversation with Elizabeth?
I called the court, told them what she had said.
Did you speak to court staff there?
Yes.
And essentially, what were you supposed to do after speaking to court staff?
They said to just carry on with what I'm supposed to do, go try to pick him up on Sunday, and if she doesn't allow me to, then to come back in on Monday and I can file paperwork.
So on Sunday, did you go to pick up Gabriel?
Yes.
Prior to picking up Gabriel, did you talk to your father at all about the conversation you had with Elizabeth?
Yes, I believe I did.
Whose idea was it to call the court on the 18th?
I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell you if it was my idea or my dad's. I believe I asked him what I should do. So.
When you went to pick up Gabriel on the 20th, did anybody go with you?
My dad.
And when you went to pick up Gabriel on the 20th, what did your dad provide to you?
Recorder.
I'm sorry?
What was the purpose of the recorder?
Basically to record our conversations that I had with Elizabeth.
And what type of recorder did your dad give you?
Just a little one about that tall, not that skinny.
And was it a tape recorder, a digital recorder?
Digital recorder. Had different things that came with it, like microphones and stuff like that.
So when you went to the home on December 20th, 2009, was this the trailer in Tempe?
Yes.
What happened when you got there?
We pulled up, I turned on the recorder, put it in my pocket, walked up to the trailer and knocked on the door, and nobody was there. And the blinds and everything were open in the house, so we looked in the windows and pretty much all of the clothes and everything was gone.
So you looked in and all the clothes and everything were gone?
Yes.
Did you have a key to get in at this point?
No key.
Why not?
I believe I gave it back to her when that police officer was there.
We talked about the recorder. Were you recording this?
Hold on, I think you want to finish.
Yeah, I use the restroom, so I'm not sitting here all antsy.
Okay, so I interpret that as a request to take a quick break, is that?
Yes, please.
Okay, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. So we're going to have you come out and we'll come back in about 5 minutes. So until then, remember the admonition and we'll see you in about 5 minutes. Take it, Jerry. Seated, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We left off with the direct examination of Mr. McQueary. So Ms. Andrews, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, Logan, we left off talking about December 20th, 2009, and I was asking you about going to the trailer. You said you had the recorder. Did you record everything that was happening at the trailer?
Yes.
And we already talked about you looking in the windows of the trailer and seeing the property gone. Did you look at anything else while you were there?
The shed was right next to the door where you went in the trailer, so I looked in there too. And Gabriel's crib and a few of his clothes, and I believe there's some blankets in there too. We're all just thrown on the floor in the shed.
And did you look anywhere else for Elizabeth and Gabriel on December 20th, 2009?
On the 20th, I think I talked to her brother and her grandfather and asked if they had talked to her. I believe that was it.
What did you do on December 21st, 2009?
I think that was the day I went down to court. That was Monday.
And you know, I forgot to ask you, back on December 17th, 2009, when you had the court hearing, was your paternity of Gabriel established by the judge?
Yes.
So on December 21st, 2009, what did you do?
That was a Monday?
Yes.
That's the day I went down and told them everything that had happened. They had told me that Elizabeth had called on that Friday and asked them basically the same thing I had asked them, if she had to follow what the judge's orders were that were set in court. And that's when they gave me I believe they call it temporary order for custody. It was just temporary until we had our next court date. And they told me they gave me a piece of paper saying if I find Gabriel, then I just showed the piece of paper showing that I have temporary custody of him and I can take custody. Or if they find Elizabeth and Gabriel, then I can call the police and show them the paper and they will go get Gabriel for me and bring him to me. But the police wouldn't look for him. I had to look for him myself.
And so you got these documents from the court?
Yes.
And essentially these documents said that you would take custody of Gabriel?
Yes.
After December 21st, 2009, and before December 27th, 2009, did you have any communications between you and Elizabeth?
What were those dates again?
December 21st, 2009 and December 27th, 2009.
We may have had one phone conversation on the 26th, but I can't remember if we did or not.
Do you recall if you and Elizabeth had any conversations or if she posted anything to you on MySpace?
I believe she did post things on MySpace to me, though.
And do you recall what that was about?
It was about Gabriel, and I believe wanting to give him up for adoption still, and I remember everything what those were about. I remember responding to her on that, I believe. I did, telling her that I wanted to be a part of Gabriel's life and I wanted to take care of him, and I didn't want her to give him up for adoption.
Let me ask you this, Logan. Before you testify here today, did you go back and read any police reports on this case?
Yeah.
At some point in time, did you talk to some police officers about this case?
Like, recently?
Ever?
Oh, yes. Talked
One
to several,
time, more than one time?
several police officers, yes.
Several times, different times. Are you relying on the police to obtain the information on these records that were talked about?
Yes, some of it, yes.
I haven't asked you to go back and look at them and memorize what conversations you had with Elizabeth.
No.
Have you re-listened to any of these recordings to prepare for this trial?
Yeah.
Have you gone back and looked at any of the text messages to prepare for this trial?
No.
Are you relying on us to get that out some other way?
Yes.
So based on your memory, you had some conversations between you and Elizabeth, but I want to talk to you now about Tammy and Jack Smith. At some point in time, did you learn about Tammy and Jack Smith?
Yes.
And when you first learned about them, did you know that Jack was Jack's name?
I believe it was Jackie.
Did you ever believe his name to be Rich?
I think my dad did at first, yeah.
At some point in time, and do you remember how you learned the names Tammy and Jack Smith?
It was, somebody gave us, it might have been the CPS worker after they had given me temporary custody of Gabriel. I believe I talked to her, and I think she may have given us the numbers. I can't remember exactly how we got them.
And during the time that you got, well, after December 20th, 2009, when you couldn't find Gabriel and Elizabeth at the trailer, did you then try and find this Tammy and Jack Smith?
Yes.
And how did you go about doing that?
My dad looked up names on the computer, and so did I.
And when he looked up names on the computer, were you able to ever find a phone number for the Smiths?
I believe we found a number for their work.
And did you ever have any telephone conversations with yourself and Tammy and Jack Smith?
Yes, after I had gotten their cell phone number, I got Tammy Smith's number. I had called her.
And when you first talked to Tammy Smith, I'm not going to ask you about what was said, but what was your impression when you got off the phone with Tammy Smith?
Which time? Well, the first time when I first started talking to her, I thought she was a pretty nice lady, and we just had a kind of a normal conversation. I thought she was pretty nice.
And during that first conversation, did you have any indication that Gabriel was with the Smiths at that time?
No.
We'll talk about some further conversations with the Smiths in a minute. But I want to take you then to December 25th, 2009. Did you return to the trailer on that day?
December 25th?
Yeah, Christmas Day.
I believe so.
And when you went to the trailer, what happened there?
That was when I believe I talked to Elizabeth's roommate.
And what was the reason you went to the trailer on that day?
Because I had a computer in the house, and we had a Wii, and my dad and I had been talking. If Elizabeth had looked up any place that she was going to go or something like that, we could look on the history on, because it was my computer anyways, the computer or the Wii to try to figure out where she went. So I went there asking him if I could have the computer and the Wii, and he told me no.
Sorry, so
when-
he told you.
He told me no.
Do you know the name of this roommate that you met?
I do now. It's Malcolm Phillips.
At the time, had you ever heard of him before?
No.
Did you expect to see a roommate when you got to the trailer?
I knew that she had moved one in, but I had met him or seen him.
And had you and Elizabeth ever talked about getting a roommate in the trailer?
No.
When you said you learned that she had moved a roommate in, where did you learn that?
Elizabeth had told me when I came over on the day before our custody hearing.
And so you met with the roommate and he didn't give you the Wii or the computer at that time?
No.
Now between December 21st, 2009, when you got the emergency custody order, and December 27th, 2009, do you recall any conversations you had with Elizabeth?
I believe we had, what were those dates again?
December 21st, 2009, when you got the emergency custody order, and December 27th, 2009, which we haven't talked about yet.
Does that include the 27th or just from the 20th?
Not
Okay.
including the 27th.
Not other than sending, I think, one thing on MySpace. I believed I got something from her on MySpace and I sent something back to her. But we didn't talk on the phone.
Now, during the time period after your dad gave you the recorder on December 20th, did you attempt to record all conversations you had with Elizabeth
Yeah, with Elizabeth and the Smiths.
and the Smiths?
Yes.
And we already talked about the fact that it was a digital recorder. Tell me how you would record phone calls with that digital recorder.
It had kind of like a microphone with a suction cup on the back of it, and I just pushed it on the back of my cell phone when I was talking, and it would record the conversation.
And after recording the conversations, did you go back and listen and make sure every single conversation that you had was recorded on that recorder?
Not everyone, no.
Did you ever play those conversations for anybody else?
None. I think my dad listened to a few of them, but other than that, no.
So you didn't make sure everything was saved on those?
I didn't really exactly know how to work the thing, so I know how to push record.
Is it your belief, though, that every conversation with Elizabeth after the time you got the recorder and the Smiths on that recorder?
Yes.
All right, Logan, I'm going to ask you what happened on December 27th, 2009. Why don't you start from the beginning with your first contact with Elizabeth that day?
I was at my grandmother's house. Just left my grandmother's house, and I believe I was about 10 minutes away from there, and that's when I got the first text message from Elizabeth. And the only thing she texted me was, "I killed him." And I believe right then I started trying to call her over and over again. And I don't think she picked up right away. I think I got a text message after that. I don't remember what the next one was exactly. But then I got a hold of her, talked to her on the phone. I think just for a few minutes she hung up on me. I think I called back and then we had a conversation.
Logan, I'm going to go ahead and stop you here. I'm going to do this a little bit at a time, okay?
Okay.
Before we talk about the conversations you had with Elizabeth that day, you mentioned that you called her after you got the text message. When, at some point in time, you knew that Elizabeth was gone, December 20, 2009, because of looking at the trailer. Did you have a way to reach her?
I had a phone number, but I wasn't sure if it was hers or not.
Where did you get the phone number?
Jack and Tammy Smith.
So they gave you a phone number for Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think that was on like maybe the 22nd or 23rd, somewhere around there.
Now, during the time period from you getting the phone number from Jack and Tammy Smith and, say, any conversations you had around December 26, 2009 with Elizabeth, did you attempt to call her?
No.
Why is that?
Because I trusted Jack and Tammy. I had just met them, but they seemed kind of like nice people when I first met them, and they just said kind of let us take the wheel. We're friends with her. You know, I know you guys are arguing a lot, and just let us try to handle it and let us try to talk her into coming back to Arizona. And so instead of causing more problems, I let them try to handle it and talk, because I thought that's what they were trying to do, convince her to come back.
Did either Jack or Tammy tell you not to call Elizabeth?
And both of them asked me not to.
And so on December 27, 2009, you received the text. Now you're trying to call Elizabeth. What happened next?
I got a hold of her. I kept asking her where she was over and over again. I don't remember exactly how the conversation all went.
Just tell us what you remember.
I remember asking her over and over again where she was at. And she told me that she had killed Gabriel, and I said, no, she didn't, or no, you didn't. And she said, yes, you made me kill my baby boy. I just kept saying, no, you didn't. And she said, yes, I did. I suffocated him until he turned blue, and then put him in the diaper bag and put him in the dumpster. And I said, no, you didn't. Where are you guys at? And that's basically how the conversation went over and over again.
And where were you when this conversation was happening?
I was in my car.
And this was still on your way to your grandmother?
Yeah, I pulled over on the side of the road, and I was talking to her.
Was anybody with you at this time?
No.
During the time right after you talked to her, Elizabeth on the phone, did you have any other communications with her?
That day?
Right after.
She sent me a few text messages. Right after, because my phone was dying, and I was like, I have to go. I'm going to go. And she goes, why? So you can go tell your dad or run to the police. And I said, no, I have to go. Unless you're going to tell me where you're at, I have to go. And so basically I hung up on her, and I turned off my phone because my phone was dying. And then I drove back to my grandmother's house, and or where she was staying, the retirement home, and my dad was there and a few of my family members. And I said, this just happened, this is what's going on, and they told me you need to go to the police, like right now. So I went over to Mesa Police Department, which was right across the street, and told them what was going on, played the recording for them, and they turned me away. Told me to go away. They told me to where I lived, and I said I live in Tempe, and they said you need to go to the Tempe police station, and they need to deal with it there.
Let's go back and let me ask. So you talked about the phone call that you had with Elizabeth, and that you were saying to her, no, you didn't, and then you told her you had to go. Why did you do that?
Because my phone was dying.
And what were you, you were on the side of the road. What were you doing at that point?
What do you mean? What was
I
it?
mean,
Sitting on the side of the
Did you
road.
immediately get in the car and drive to talk to your dad?
I was already in the car. I just turned around and went straight back. Yeah.
And let's just go when you got to the Mesa police station. You indicated you went to the Mesa police station. Is that because that's where your grandmother lived?
Yes. It was.
And they told you had to go to Tempe?
Yeah, it was right across the street from my retirement home.
And then did you go to Tempe?
Yes.
And what happened when you...
The police officer would talk to me about what was going on, and I stayed there, and I was the only one there at the time. Waited for a police officer to come. I let him know what was going on, everything up until then, and I showed him the paperwork showing that, I had temporary custody of Gabriel, and I still don't know where he's at. I think that'd been like the fourth time I've been to that police station too. He listened to the recording of our conversation, and I turned my phone back on to show him the text messages, and he read the text messages, and then about, I would say, 4 or 5 more texts came in, and it was just basically putting me down, calling me a coward bitch. She told me that she was on a flight out of the country, and she would tell me where Gabriel's body was when she was gone. And so the police officer took pictures of all the text messages on my phone. He just put the phone down, took pictures of them, and then we just pretty much sat there. He went in the back and did whatever he needed to do, and we just sat in the waiting room waiting for him to come back out and talk to us again.
When you were there talking to the police officer, did you talk to detectives as well?
Yes.
How long were you at the police station on December 27, 2009?
It was late into the night. I don't remember exact time.
Logan, at this time, with the court's permission, I'd like to approach.
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as exhibit number 12. Can you go ahead and pull that out and look at it? It's open here at the end there.
That's my recorder.
And is that the recorder that we already talked about that you used to record conversations?
Yes.
Did you give that to the police on December 27, 2009?
Yes.
Have they had it ever since?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 19. Do you recognize the pictures that are in exhibit 19?
Yes, that's my phone.
Is that the phone you showed the officer on that day?
Yes.
And you testified that he took photographs of your text messages?
Yes.
And are those the photographs he took?
Yeah, looks like it.
You can go ahead and look through. There's more than one page there.
I recognize the text message.
And so these are the photographs the officer took?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yes. Sorry.
On December 28th, 2009, what happened, Logan?
On the 28th, I believe that was the day that we had to go back to court, the next custody hearing that we had. And I went into court. I believe a police officer came with me from, I don't know if they were from Tempe. Tempe police officer came with me to the court, or showed up there. And they ruled that I got full custody of Gabriel. And I believe they asked a warrant or something like that to help out with the search of Gabriel and Elizabeth.
And did Elizabeth show up at that hearing?
No.
Did she call in?
No.
During the time that you were with the officer on December 27, 2009, you said you turned your phone off and you turned your phone back on. Did you receive text messages from anybody other than Elizabeth Johnson?
I don't believe so. I believe those were the next few texts were just Elizabeth's.
Now, you said you had had some conversations with Tammy and Jack Smith, and that you trusted them, and they told you not to talk to Elizabeth. Eventually, did you stop trusting the Smiths?
Yes.
And what's the reason you stopped trusting the Smiths?
They just, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. And Jack and I had kind of gotten in a conversation that I didn't like either, and made me kind of change my opinion about them.
Did the Smiths try and get you to sign adoption papers?
They had asked me about it, yes.
What did they tell you in regard to the adoption papers?
They had sent me a text message saying that if I sign adoption paperwork, then they'll fax them back to Elizabeth, and then Gabriel will be returned to them.
So they wanted you to sign adoption papers so you could get Gabriel back?
Yeah. If I wanted to know that Gabriel was safe and he would be returned safe, then I'd just sign the adoption paperwork, and then she'd bring him back.
On December 27, 2009, you gave your recorder to the police officers. Did you ever obtain another one?
Yes, I believe I did.
Did you use that recorder to record any other phone calls with the Smiths?
I can't recall if the Smiths were on there or not. I used it whenever, I don't know if I had any contact with the Smiths after that or not. So, but I still used it to record conversations, yes.
During your conversations with the Smiths, did you ever tell them that you were not interested in having them adopt your baby?
Yes.
Did you tell them did you continue to talk to them, or did you end the conversations?
I ended all the conversations. That was on the 28th after the custody hearing. They had called me. Tammy did.
And what did you tell them?
I told her that I think she's causing more harm than help, and I don't want her to be, part of this investigation or part of this at all. And that if I figure out if she's helping Elizabeth and the one doing this, and then she's going to be charged just like Elizabeth will be.
Let me ask you this, Logan. Tell me about when you had Gabriel. What types of things did you and Gabriel do?
We did several things. Went on walks together. He helped me out when we moved into our trailer. We fixed it up. We retiled all the floors and did all the countertops, and we built a deck out front, stuff like that. Whenever I'd be doing any of that, Gabriel would be sitting pretty much right there. Whenever I worked on the deck out front, he'd sit out there in his stroller and just kind of watch me build the deck. And whenever I did.
Did you ever play with him?
Yes.
Did you change his diapers?
Yes.
Did you feed him?
Yes.
Did you clothe him?
Yes.
Did you bathe him?
Yes.
In December of 2009, how old was he?
8 months, 7 months.
Logan, when was the last time you ever saw Gabriel Johnson?
December 8th of 2009, when I returned him with a police officer to the house and put him in his crib, and it's the last time I ever saw Gabriel.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Andrews. I think since we're right up to the lunch hour, we're not going to start cross-examination with only a minute or two left for lunch, so we'll wait after lunch. So we're going to take our lunch break. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break from 12 to 1:30. Please be back at 1:25. Until then, remember the admonition. We'll see you at 1:30 for this afternoon. All right, thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Where do you work?
Right now I work in St. Louis, Missouri.
And what company do you work for?
Well, I work actually for two companies. I work for a company called Venco Partners, and I work for a company called Buckingham Exteriors. I become freelance project manager.
Okay, and what type of sales are you involved in?
Right now I do storm restoration. I work with commercial buildings that have been damaged by hail and other storms.
Right, now, Mr. Phipps, at some point in time, you lived in the state of Arizona, is that
I
correct?
did. Mm-hmm.
Right, is that in the year 2009 to 2010?
I did. I
roughly?
moved here 1st of December 2009.
All right. Now, prior to moving here in around the 1st of December 2009, what state did you live in?
I was in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida,
And had you been in the state of Florida for some time?
for about 10 years.
All right. Now, Mr. Phipps, while you were in the state of Florida, you had some troubles with the law, is that
I did.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right. In fact, on one date in the year 2000, you engaged in some criminal activity that resulted in some felony convictions, is
That's
that
correct.
correct? All right. And are those your only felony convictions, those dating in, those back from the date of July 24th of the year 2000?
Yes.
Okay, and to be
Well, I
specific-
had some felony convictions when I was much younger, but since then, those are my only felony.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right, and you spent your time in Florida, and then you came here to the state of Arizona, correct?
That's correct.
Right. Now, when you came here to the state of Arizona, was there a particular reason why you came here?
Yes, my son lived here in Phoenix, and he worked for a company called PMI in Scottsdale, and I went to work for that company. That's the reason I came here.
And what does PMI stand for?
Professional Marketing International, and it
And
also
what-
was a sales organization.
Okay. What type of sales did you do for that organization?
That was all telephone work, and what they sold was coaching packages for people that were starting new businesses, and we helped them start the business.
Now, when you moved here around the 1st of December 2009, were you looking for a place to live?
I was.
Right. And what did you do to look for a place to live?
Well, I went on Craigslist, and I was actually trying to find something fairly close to where I worked until I could get an apartment of my own. So I was really looking for a roommate situation.
All right, and at some point, did you come across an ad for a room in a trailer located in the city of Tempe?
I did.
Okay, And at some point, did you come to meet a woman by the name of Elizabeth Johnson?
Yes, I did.
Right. And do you see her in the courtroom here today?
Do I see Elizabeth Johnson? I don't know if I see her or not, that I would recognize her.
Has it been some time since you've seen her?
It's been since, 2009.
Okay. All right. Well, did you go to the trailer that was posted on Craigslist?
I did.
Okay. And at that time, did you meet a woman that represented herself to be Elizabeth
Yes.
Johnson? When you met her, do you recall around what date it was?
It was, I want to say around the 10th of December.
Okay. And on the 10th of December, what did you do?
Well, and again, this has been a while back. I went over and met her and saw the room in the trailer, and we agreed that I would move in, and I paid her a deposit and some rent money for December. And it was a couple days after that that I actually moved in.
Okay. And do you recall what the rent was? How much?
I want to say it was $400 for the month and then a deposit also.
So when you first moved in, did you pay her a deposit and the rent, which would be about $800?
I did.
Okay. And you stated that you moved in a couple days later.
Mhm.
All right. Now, when you went to look at the home, was she the only one that was present?
She was.
And was that home located on Priest Drive?
Yes.
Right. What room in the house did she show you?
Well, there were only 2 bedrooms, and the room had been a child's room.
And
It
how
just
do you know it was a child's room?
Well, she told me that.
Okay.
And she was in the process of moving things out of it. And there were kids, there were baby things around the room. I think the crib had already been moved out, but there was a dresser and just little mobiles and just, little toys and things like that around the room.
Right. And did she indicate to you at that time where the baby was or where the baby was
She
going?
did. She told me that the baby had been put up for adoption. I don't believe she told me she was married, but she was separated from the father, and that they had put the baby up for adoption, and that's the story that she told me at that time.
Now, by the time you moved in, which was, you say was a day or two later, when you went back to see that room, were all the baby items gone, or were there still
There
some?
were a few
in it?
things there. I moved some things myself out into a little storage shed that was there on the property.
So there was a storage shed right on the property, and you moved it back there.
Yes.
Now, once you moved into the house, well, did you ever see her child?
The day that I was supposed to move in, and I want to say it was around 5 in the afternoon that I was supposed to be there, she actually called me and asked me to come a little later because the people that had adopted her baby were there at the house with the baby, and she wanted me to wait till they left. And so when I got there, they were actually standing out front. A couple, I think she had the baby. I drove by, I didn't pull up because I was trying to give her a little space to finish her business, and I actually just pulled down to the end of the street and waited for a few minutes while they finished up. The couple got in the car with the baby and drove off, and then that's the only time I saw a baby around the trailer.
Okay. And when you moved in that day, did she come into the house with you? And okay.
Yeah, hold on for 1 second. Typical conversation, you say uh-huh or mm-hmm. Here you need to say affirmatively yes or no so the court reporter can take it down. Go ahead, Ms. Romano.
Thank you, Your Honor. You stated that she did come into the house with you that day.
Yes, she did.
After that day, about how many times did you actually come into contact with Ms. Johnson?
Well, let me think. Not many. Maybe a half a dozen times that I saw her when I would come. I worked fairly late, and I would come in, and either she wasn't there at all, or the few times that she was there, it was again just kind of in crossing. And I usually didn't stay out and socialize with her. I'd go back to my room and stay to
Now,
myself.
when you did have contact with her, did you speak with her?
Sometimes.
Did you observe what she was doing?
Sometimes, it was kind of obvious. She was on her computer a lot. I noticed that. She was selling things, and I kind of noticed that she had things up for sale. We kind of talked about that, and she was just kind of downsizing from her relationship, is the way she put it.
Did she sell her dogs?
I never saw the dog. She told me that she'd had 2 dogs that had been sold.
And you noticed that she was selling other items as well?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Now, during that time when you did have conversations with her, did she ever indicate to you what her plans for the child were?
No.
Okay, you stated that she she told you she had given up the baby for adoption?
That the baby had been given up for adoption.
Was there a time where you had a conversation with her about the adoption in relation to the father of the child?
There was, and you know, I've thought about that, whether it was before she left or whether it was in a conversation that we had on the phone after she was gone. That she told me at some point that she did not want the baby to go back to the father. She never really went into detail about it. She just said, I'm not going to let the father have the baby.
Okay. In fact, do you recall telling us earlier that she said she was going to make sure that the father never saw the baby again?
She was pretty adamant about it. That's correct.
Now, you indicated that there was a point in time in which you did talk to her when she had left the state.
Yes.
Now, I just want to be clear. Did she tell you before she left Arizona that she was in fact leaving, or did
No.
you find out?
No, she did not.
Do you recall the last time that you actually saw her in the state of Arizona?
I don't recall the exact date. I noticed two things. One, I hadn't seen her for a few days, and her answering machine had been left turned on, and I started hearing messages from people that were looking for her. And I eventually went and turned the machine down because I was kind of tired of listening to it.
Do you recall speaking to the police back in the year 2009 and 2010?
To the police?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
In fact, you spoke to them on several occasions.
Yes.
Now, do you recall telling them back at that time that it was about the 15th or 16th of December that you last saw her?
And that seems about right, yes.
And that would be about a week or so after you moved
Week
in.
to 10 days after I moved in.
Now, you mentioned that you started to hear voicemail messages looking for her. Did you have any way of contacting her at that time?
I had her phone number, from when I originally had contacted her. And I can't honestly remember if it was after the police came the first time that I tried to call her. It seems like I tried to call her before that just to find out what was going on. I remember, I want to say it was her sister, but it was a female that was calling very, urgent, trying to get a hold of her, leaving messages. And I think it was her grandfather that was trying to call and had left messages for her. And so I tried to call to find out what was going on.
And did you get in contact with her?
She eventually called me or texted me on another number. She had another phone, and she basically told me that she was gone for a while, everything was fine, there were no problems, she'd be back in a little while, she just needed to get away, just kind of put me off, like, don't worry about it, everything's okay.
All right, now, and it's okay if you don't remember, but do you remember around what time that was that you spoke? Came after the police came?
I honestly do not. I remember speaking to her after the police came. I know I contacted her then, or we were in contact. But she didn't contact me but a couple of times. And then she didn't respond to my email or my texts or my calls.
Now, did there come a point in time when a man by the name of Logan McQueary came to the house?
Yes.
And did you know who he was?
I did. He identified himself to me. And of course she had told me about her boyfriend.
All right. And do you recall around what time he came to see you at the house?
I don't know the exact date. I want to say it was before Christmas, but I could be wrong. But it was right in that same time frame.
To the best of your recollection today, it was around Christmas time?
Yes.
Probably before?
Yes.
All right. And when he came to the home, tell us about your interaction with him.
He wanted to come in, and I didn't let him come in. I was a little uncomfortable with that. He stood on the porch, and he was very cordial. Asked me if I knew anything about Elizabeth, or where she was, anything about the baby, those kinds of questions. And I really didn't, have much to tell him. I believe at that time I'd been in contact with the police, because I believe I told him the police had been in the trailer and had been around.
Now, when you say that you felt uncomfortable letting him in the home, is there any particular reason why?
Well, because it wasn't, I rented a room from Elizabeth, and again, I didn't know the whole story at that time, and I just felt like it was not my place to let him come in and look through her things.
All right. Now, when you did have interaction with him there that day, you indicated that he was cordial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did he harass you in any way?
No.
Did he threaten you in any
No.
way? It was just a regular conversation,
Mm-hmm.
kind of asking you questions,
Yes.
you giving him information.
Yes.
Now, at some point, the police did come to the house looking for the baby, is that correct?
Yes.
Right. And in fact, did the Tempe Police Department come to that house 2 times on one day?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And the first time an officer came and kind of just looked around, asked you some questions?
Yes.
And then
Hold on for 1 second. We're having a conversation where you're both talking at once.
Okay.
And that's going to be hard for the court reporter to pick up. So make sure she's completely finished her question before you answer, and she'll make sure you finished your answer before she starts her question. So go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe my question was, the first time a single officer had come to the house, is that correct?
Yes.
And he basically just looked around and asked you some questions.
Yes.
Then later in the day, did 2 detectives come and do a more thorough search of the house?
That's correct.
And you allowed both of those sets of officers into the house to do what they needed to do. Is that a fair statement?
I did. They also went out to the shed and looked around.
Now, you indicated that at various points, you indicated that you did have contact with Elizabeth via text message before the police came and after the police came.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
That is my memory.
Okay, and or telephone contact?
Yes.
Did you tell her that Logan had been to the house?
I believe I did. I believe I told her about the police, and I believe I told her about Logan.
Now, did you continue living in that home for much longer after this incident
Not
came
much
to your...
longer.
Okay. About how much longer did you live in that home?
I moved out, I want to say it was about 2 or 3 days after Christmas.
Okay, and why was that?
Well, when they started talking about bringing cadaver sniffing dogs around, I figured it was time for me to move on. So I was just uncomfortable in the whole situation. I felt kind of trapped there. I didn't know what was going on with her, with Logan, and really just did not want to be there.
Okay, and you moved just to another location in the Phoenix area, correct?
Over in Scottsdale, yes.
In fact, you gave the police officers your forwarding contact information, correct?
Yes, I did.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
You may.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Cross-examination, Mr. Victor, Ms. Clark? You may.
Judge, we have no questions for this witness.
Okay, thank you. Does the jury have any questions for Mr. Phipps before we let him go? Going once, going twice. May this witness be excused. Ms. Romano?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Mr. Victor?
Yes, Judge.
You may step down. Thank you. Ms. Romano, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Al-Fadli, would you please state your full name?
Amir Al-Fadli.
And sir, were you previously employed as the assistant manager at the 99-cent only store in Tempe, Arizona?
Yes.
And is that located on 790 East Southern?
Said yes.
Yes.
One of the things that you have to try and do, make sure you don't answer uh-huh or uh-uh. You got to say yes or no. Make sure you speak so the court reporter can take down what you're saying, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. And Mr. Al-Fadli, could you briefly tell us what your job duties were as an assistant manager?
Assistant manager is, I used to work, helping customers, directing employees, for like merchandising, helping the cashiers, doing the schedule sometimes, because usually the store manager does the schedule, but sometimes we do schedules too.
Okay. Now I'm going to draw your attention to the date of December 9th, 2009. Were you working in the capacity as an assistant manager at that time?
Yes.
Right. And was there an incident in your store?
Yes.
All right. And was that incident involving one of your employees by the name of Logan McQueary and his girlfriend at the time?
Yes.
All right. Now, what was Mr. McQuarrie's position at the 99-cent only store?
He was a merchandiser. He used to stock merchandise in the store.
And do you recall what his typical hours were, or what the typical hours of a merchandiser would be?
I think afternoons.
And at this time of the year, it was gearing up for the Christmas season. So would you say that it was a busy time of year for the store?
Yes.
All right. Now, was Mr. McQuarrie a reliable employee?
Yes.
All right. And how well did you know him?
I don't recall the exact period of time. So I don't know, over a month, couple months, I'm not sure.
That's about how long you remember having contact with him as an employee?
Is that yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Now, on the date of December 9th, 2009, you indicated already that there was an incident at the store. Can you tell us what your involvement in that incident was?
What I recall is I remember Mr. Logan was locked in the office, and his girlfriend was upset at that time. I don't recall the details. So
All right, now when you state that she was upset, what made you believe she was upset?
I think I hear her yelling, but the exact location where she was yelling, I don't recall that.
Now, at some point, you indicated that Logan McQueary was in the office of the store. Where is that located in that store? Where would the office be in relation to the front door?
In the back of the store.
Okay, and is that an employee-only area?
It's a management office and the lounge room for the employees on the other side.
Okay, and is that an area where only employees are allowed to enter?
Yes.
All right, and it sounds like your attention was drawn to the back of the store at some time. Did you go to the back of the store?
To that area?
Yes.
I think so.
And at some point, did the police arrive at the store and take statements about what had occurred there that day?
I remember the police came in, but I don't recall the interview and getting the statements.
Okay. But you do recall that the police came to your location that day?
Yes.
Right. Were you able to, you said that Logan's girlfriend was yelling. Do you recall what she was yelling about or what she was saying?
No.
All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
No questions, Judge.
All right. Do we have any questions for Mr. Alfadli before we let him step down from the jury? Doesn't look like it. May this witness be excused?
Yes, please, Your Honor.
Mr. Victor,
Yes, Judge.
you may step down. Thank you.
Grox.
Ms. Ramuno, you may proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Greer, would you please state your full name?
Cynthia Grew.
And I believe you just spelled it for the court reporter. It's spelled a little bit differently than how it's pronounced. What is your current occupation?
Right now I'm in retail.
Okay. And previously, did you work at a store called the 99-cent only store?
Yes, I did.
And did you work at a location located in Tempe, Arizona?
Yes.
Specifically located at 790 East Southern?
Yes.
Were you working there during the month of December 2009?
Yes, I was.
And specifically, do you remember working the date of December 9th, 2009?
Yes.
Now, on that day at that store, what was your position?
I was head cashier.
Okay, and what does head cashier do? What are your job responsibilities?
Pretty much what I do is I took care of the front end of the store, the registers, counting the cashiers in and out, helping the manager on duty, whatnot.
And what about answering the phones? Is that part of your job duty or something that just kind of gets included in sometimes?
It is part of the job duty because the phones were located in the front of the store.
Okay. Now, during that time, did you know another employee by the name of Logan McQueary?
Yes, I did.
All right, and what was his position in the store?
He was a stalker.
And how well did you know him?
I just knew him through work, pretty much, just seeing him at work.
Okay. Would you ever converse with him at work?
A little bit here and there.
Okay. Did he ever talk to you about his home life?
Not so much, no.
Okay. Did you know anything about his outside life?
Not really.
Okay. Did you know that he had a son?
Yeah.
Would he talk to you about that?
Yeah, he had mentioned it a couple times.
All right. And what about his girlfriend? Did he ever talk to you about his girlfriend?
No.
Now, on the date of December 9th, 2009, was Logan McQueary also working that day?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Was there anything unusual about him that day?
He did seem a little not necessarily upset, but a little bit off. He was a lot more focused on his job duties, not as talkative.
All right, and because of that, what did you do?
I went over and I talked to him.
Did you talk to anyone else that day?
Yeah, I usually talk to all the employees.
Okay, all right. Did you know if there was anything going on with him that day?
Not that I knew of until later on that night.
Okay, all right. Now, at some point during that day, did you receive or answer the phone and his girlfriend was calling him?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall what your shift was that day?
My shift was 3 or 4 to close, which was 10 p.m.
All right. Would that be like the afternoon shift there?
Yeah, it was the afternoon shift.
Okay, so you started at about 3 p.m. that day until about 10 o'clock.
Yes.
All right. And do you recall about how many times you answered the phone?
I would say 3 to 4.
Okay, and was that specifically when his girlfriend was calling?
Yes.
All right. And did she ask to speak to him?
Yes, she did. She called. I answered the phone as normal, and she asked to speak to Logan. I called him over the intercom to the front where the phones were.
Okay. Did he ever come up and answer the phone?
Yes, he did.
Okay. About how many times?
I would say like 2 to 3 times.
Okay. Were there ever times where he wasn't able to answer the call?
After he had talked to her, I believe he had kind of, like, she called again, tell her I'm busy, whatnot. And so I told her if she would like to leave a message, I would have him call her on his break because he was busy working.
Okay. And at some point, did the phone calls end?
Yes, they did.
All right. And did she come up to the store eventually?
Eventually, yes.
Okay. Where were you in the store when she came to the store?
I was in the middle aisle where you can see the front door with Logan.
Okay. And you were actually with Logan at that time?
Yes, I was.
All right. And when you were with him, please tell us the events that occurred once Elizabeth came into the store.
Me and him were in the aisle. I believe he noticed her first because I was talking to him, and he took off the other way towards the break room, and she came in through the front door and went the opposite way of the aisle, and I followed towards the break room.
Okay. Now, had you ever seen her before that day?
I had not known.
How did you know it was her?
He was telling me about her that day. He just mentioned that he,
Objection, hearsay.
Oh, we were about to potentially have hearsay. You can't talk about what he might have said to you usually, so that's why there was an objection. So we'll ask another question. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Did something in your conversation alert you to the fact that was her?
Yes, as we were talking, he stated there.
Don't tell us what he said. Okay.
She came in the door and.
And you were made aware that that was her?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Now, you stated that he went towards the back of the store to the back room, I believe you said?
Yes.
Right. She went around another way?
Mm-hmm.
And then you...
Yes.
Okay. And then you followed Mr. McQueary into the back?
Yes.
Okay. And after you followed him into the back, what happened then?
She continued to follow the opposite way to where she was behind me in a hallway. He then proceeded to our break room where I locked the door, and he stayed in there while I went to the front of the store to get my keys to allow him to enter into the office.
Okay. And what made you react in that manner?
Just his reaction. That whole day he had mentioned, that he didn't want to
Objection,
contact.
hearsay.
Oh, sorry.
Your Honor, it's not up for the truth of the matter, sir, just as to why she took the steps she took.
I think that's correct. That wasn't going to be a hearsay statement. So go ahead and ask the question again.
What made you react in the way that you did, walking to the back and getting the keys?
He,
You can say
Sorry.
it, Judge.
okay.
If it explains why you did it.
Don't worry if it's just rules that sometimes won't let me allow you to say it. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Just answer the question as best you can. If there's an issue, I'll let you know. Otherwise, go ahead and answer the question.
Okay. Sorry, I'm really nervous. Sorry.
Why don't you go ahead and ask the question again?
Okay. What made you react the way you did by going and getting the keys and following him to the back room?
More or less his reaction of going into the break room.
Okay. And when you got the keys, Well, it sounds like you followed him to the back and then you had to go back up to the front to get the keys.
Yes.
When you came back, where was his girlfriend?
She was in the hallway by a door, like in the middle of the doorway.
Okay. And does this hallway lead to where the break room is?
Yes, it was a long hallway, and the break room was right next to the office.
All right. And is this clearly marked as an employees only area?
Yes, it was.
All right. Now, did you say anything to her about going back into that area?
I did. I asked her if she could please stay behind the door because it was for employees only.
Okay. And what was she doing during this time?
She was standing there. She was just, Logan, I need to talk to you, Logan, just pretty much stating his name a lot.
Okay. And what kind of tone was she using? Was she speaking very loudly?
It was a loud voice, yeah.
Okay. Was she indicating what she had to talk to him about?
She just kept mentioning, Logan, I need to speak to you. It's important. It's important. It's about your son.
All right. And was he remaining in the break room at that time?
Yes, until I allowed him into the office.
Okay. So at some point, you let him out of the break room and he went into the office. Is that right across the hall?
It's literally like a step over.
Is it across the hall or next door?
A doorway here, right
Okay.
over.
All right. So are they right next to each
Yes.
other? Okay. And when he went to go into the office, what happened then?
She proceeded to try to enter into the office as well.
Okay. And when she tried to enter into the office, what happened?
I just quickly closed the door.
All right. Was she trying to get into the door?
She was knocking on the door, yelling for his name.
Okay. And who was in that office when you went in?
Nobody, it was just myself and Logan.
Okay. And did you lock the door?
Yes.
All right. Now, once you locked the door, what happened?
We called for the manager on duty to come into the office.
Okay. And what was that manager's name?
Adrian Matus.
Okay. And what happened when you called Adrian?
He came, there were cameras inside the office to the hallway so I can see when he was coming to the door. As he approached the door, I stood by the door and unlocked it so that he can come in. As he came in, the girl tried to push her way through as well.
Okay. So you called Adrian to come back, and as he was trying to go into the office, the girlfriend was trying to push her way in as well?
Yes.
And what happened then?
We pretty much just shut the door on her.
Okay. And was she saying anything at that point?
I don't remember. I just remember her yelling for his name, just Logan, Logan.
Okay. All right. Now, did you remain in the office with the three of them at that point?
Not very long. I stayed in there for a minute and then I was called up to the front by another cashier.
Okay. And when you left, what happened?
When I left, I went and handled my cashiers, whatnot, and then we called the police.
And were you there when the police arrived?
Yes, I was.
And did you talk to the police about what you observed?
Yes, I did.
Other than the things you told us about what she was saying, did you hear her talking to the police at all?
No, I did not.
Did you hear Logan talking to the police?
I did not.
Did Logan ask you to do anything?
He did mention, can you ask him where is my son?
And did you do that?
Yeah, I asked one of the police officers, like, he's really worried about his son. Like, I don't know where he is or anything, but he keeps asking where's his son.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
No questions, Judge.
Thank you. Before we let Ms. Groh go, do we have any questions from the jury? Doesn't look like it. You may step down. Thank you. Watch your step going down. And the state may call its next witness.